you stayed
We did what we
involved,
could.
and here you are now. It's 2020, and
Yeah.
you're still involved. I mean, what kept you going?
Really, I love this house.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I'm working on
Really?
another house now in on the Eastern Shore, but I'll never feel the same way about that new house that I do with this one. And that
I
this
think
house
what
goes
made
back
me
to
stay-
1760 something.
And my roots are in the farm. And once I realized that Charles Benedict was nothing but a glorified farmer,
Consummate farmer.
That's
yeah.
right.
and I thought, good for him, look what he did for us here. And it just says, everybody ought to know and know your land and know your history. Where did you come from and all that. And that's sort of my reason for staying.
It's just, it's always been a comfortable house.
Yeah.
I've always felt comfortable here.
Mhm.
And it's, you know.
Everybody says, where are the ghost stories? This lady has some of the best.
Well, and I know,
She actually saw a ghost, didn't she?
I heard something.
and actually, I mean, the three of you are a great example of you work on something like this and you form a friendship that is going to last no matter what you're up against, really. And I've always felt that way about the society, frankly, because it was the example that you all
Yeah.
put out there. I mean, people come, it was like this morning, people come to these meetings and they're genuinely just delighted to see each other.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of why this house feels the way it does, why it's always been comfortable, why it's always been rewarding, I think.
I've
It's
had
a-
more people take them on tours, and when I finish, they say, it's really obvious how much you care about this house.
I have
Yeah.
heard that myself.
Yeah.
I have heard that over and over again.
Yeah, and I mean, we do.
Yeah.
We all do.
Do you have a favorite place? Do you have a favorite room in the house, Doris? I'm going to ask all three of you, so think about it.
Favorite room in the house? I don't know, it's probably silly, but I like that little room upstairs.
Which one?
Which one?
The one that's up at the top of the stairs where you go in, and it's right outside of the,
Outside of the yellow bedroom?
no, out, well, that's one of the nursery's one of my favorite rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the little room where it could have been a tutor's room or whatever, it's in the
Oh,
on
in
top of
the,
the,
in
on
the
top
hyphen.
of the hyphen.
In
Oh,
the
in the
hyphen.
hyphen, yeah.
Oh,
I just think
The
that
one
is-
we now call the caraway room.
yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I just think that's the neatest little room. I
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
comfortable there.
That
I can
low
sit
ceiling.
there and read and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like that room. And the nursery is another one of my
Yeah.
I mean, I could pick
Yeah.
favorite rooms.
Peggy, do you have a favorite?
Actually, I really don't. No.
No?
Uh-uh.
Ruth, how about you? Do
No,
you have a
me
spot
either. I
you
just-
love the most?
I guess if any place, I would say it's the basement. Because I keep saying always, you've got to have a good foundation no matter what you're doing. You've got to have a good
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my preacher's story.
And we always had fun down there.
Yeah, we did.
Well,
Yeah.
we did,
Yeah.
but I keep thinking of Renee and the mold.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. She would tell us about that mold every time we were here.
Yeah.
And she was right. We
And
did
she
need to
was
get rid of
right.
mold. Yeah, that mold was really an issue.
But I've scrubbed those floors too.
I was
I'll
gonna
bet
say,
you have.
you didn't complain. You were down there scrubbing the mold
Oh, my
off.
hands and knees scrubbed and scrubbed those
So-
floors.
Here's something interesting to think of. I mean, you guys have you've all been here really since the beginning. What would you hope this house is 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now?
Teaching tool, I guess.
I think it is a teaching tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think with some of the programs that they've come up with, they're doing a fantastic job. And I think it's showing kids.
Yeah.
That's
We got a lot of kids come through
yeah,
the
I know
house.
you
Yeah.
do. And
Even
it's
if
really
you-
good.
You have money and you don't waste it on junk. You put it into your house and your children's education and other people's education, and you leave something behind of worth in this country.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's what it represents. I don't think I could have stayed here if if he had been a manufacturer of railroad cars or something.
Yeah.
But the
Right.
fact that he dug in the dirt, he knew how important the dirt was.
Well, and what's interesting, Ruth, you stuck with it more because of CB
Yeah,
than because of George and Rosalie. And isn't it interesting?
yeah,
All those years later,
yeah,
what does Matt Ray call us with? But I've got this trunk of papers of CBs.
yeah.
Yeah.
And suddenly we've learned so much more about that period of the house and the
Yeah.
family and all of that.
I think that's been wonderful.
It's been astonishing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about how much we've used those papers for new exhibits or new classes or this and that and the other that we didn't have.
Didn't they?
Right. Rosalie's letters will always be the Bible, and I tell people that's the core of everything we do here, and it's really why, because she was such an unusual woman.
Yes.
It's part of what put this house and this family on the map. But then, I mean, her children are no less distinguished. It's like this onion that just keeps peeling out, and you just keep finding new layers and new things, and there are new people who get involved.
I can remember the night that Anne resigned from all of this stuff. And I was leaving, go home that night. And she came running after me and she says, I resigned. Is it all right if I ask Patrick to take my place? I think you were next in line, weren't you, or something like that.
Well,
And
that didn't bother me one bit.
I know.
When she
But she
did
said-
say, I hope you don't mind, but I'm asking Patrick.
Yeah, so she came to the executive committee here to ask permission to ask you. And I'm thinking,
I didn't know that.
Now you know who to blame.
Yeah, now you know who to blame.
So
as I was driving home, I said, suppose he says no, what are we gonna do?
I know. I was going to be down on my knees if you said no.
Really.
And it's this whole thing when I keep referring to this as God's house. They led my husband and I to buy that house down there at the foot of the hill. And I kept worrying about what's going on in that big house up there. My kids come over here to play in the big open space. I never really went much further than that. I hope they don't hurt themselves on that steep hill or something like that,
Well, but Ruth, it's interesting because you think about lots of people live within a few blocks of here or within a mile of here. And every single weekend, we have people who come through the house and say, I've lived here all my life and I've never been inside this house.
Right.
So there was something that sparked you, all three of you, to say, no, I want to be involved in that. That's important. And I don't know if you can describe what it was, or maybe it wasn't a thing, maybe it was a series of things, but most people don't get involved in museums or historic houses.
Well, I would be honest enough to say I think it was a good getaway from the kids.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because I'd been
Yeah.
at home for
When I got involved, my kids were up and out by that time.
all my kids were in
And-
first grade, at least first grade.
And I felt very free.
Yeah. And it was just so nice
Yeah.
to get out and talk with grown-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were convenient.
That helps.
So I'm not going to pretend any glorious inspiration. It was just wonderful to get
Are
away.
there, I mean, you all have so many memories of this house, of the society. And are there one or two that just really, really stand out as that was a remarkable moment, or that meant so much to me, or anything that, as we're just kind of getting close to wrapping up, is there anything that you want to make sure, when we talk about the history of this house, anything you want to make sure we don't miss?
It's just such a neat place.
Yeah.
And they, learning everything that Rosalie and her family went through here. And I get really upset with people who don't care about history. I really get upset about that.
I guess one of my favorite things I like to tell people when they start talking like I'm a big shot, I said, just remember your dirt.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, we're all dirt.
Yep.
Right.
So just don't get high and mighty on me.
If you keep asking questions, if you keep pushing people, you will find things. I mean, I think about, Joanne and Davis Calvert. And I don't remember how they originally finally got interested in the house. They'd been around since the very beginning. But boy, once they did, they start pushing their family and they start telling this one, you need to contribute. And, it takes persistence. It's taken us 40 years to get where we are. And, somebody needs to push it for the next 40.
I have to interject something here about Ann Ferguson, which
Sure.
I'm very admiring of Ann's ambition and push. On the other hand, she never felt comfortable with the descendants,
No.
and she excluded them from
Really?
board positions that I thought we should have had, and she felt threatened by them,
I think you're right.
and that was a drawback to her leadership.
And was Peyton Fowler one of the earlier members of the family who got involved?
Yes.
And how did she get involved? Who found her?
I guess really her mother was.
Her mother was interested in the house, but Peyton was recently divorced and moved up here from North Carolina, and to be near her mother. Her mother was recently remarried, so her mother didn't have much time for her.
But do we know how her mother got involved, or when, or how? Or?
Well, she had a bunch of stuff that belonged to the house, but it was Peyton who had time on her hands, and then inherited the stuff her mother had that really. But Ann was intimidated by Peyton. Ann was intimidated by that nice woman who lives out in Bowie.
I'm always puzzled, I guess is the right word. That members of the family are not involved. And I do understand in the early days when you guys were scrubbing floors and cleaning plaster dust, and if I were a family member and there was this museum, I'd kind of say, I'm not so sure. I don't know if they can take care of this stuff. I don't know if they care about it. I don't know what they're going to say about it. So I can understand the family withholding in those days. But now I find it so interesting that some members of the family really want to be involved, are very willing to donate or loan or talk about family history, and some just don't. I mean, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I truly don't.
No, I agree with you. I don't understand it. I do feel that when we first got started, people were hesitant on giving us things because they weren't sure.
I understand.
And after they knew Ann,
And
they
yet
weren't
some
sure.
did. Some really stepped up
Some
early
did.
on.
But some also sold items. I mean, the couch in the salon right now, or the parlor, that blue
That's
couch,
true.
I know was purchased by the society from a descendant.
I
And
think the dining room table too.
exactly the same. We haven't come across anyone that wants to sell us anything at the time. Most are very willing to donate it back to the house. But I think I'll go along with Doris's comments that there's more feeling of either trust or structure or
I think so.
things that they just feel confident that we're going to interpret it and keep it in
Well,
the way.
And I mean, the confidence is well placed. I mean, you think about all the effort. I mean, the three of you together put in more effort than most museums ever get from any of their volunteers, much less three. And so, I mean, you worked hard to make this work, and then Ed came on as director, and he had a vision, and he had a direction, and he was willing to work with the society. And I mean, he would mostly. And there's still some moments. But, you know, and then, as I said earlier, I mean, Jennifer has professionalized our collections, our curatorship, and our outreach to the family.
Yeah.
And she's been great at it. And so I can understand why the family would feel differently today than
Yes.
they did
Yeah.
40
I
years
agree.
ago.
We are now National Historical Landmark,
Exactly.
which doesn't hurt.
Were you all involved in that? That's a good question. I didn't even think to ask that. I know Susan Pearl really wrote the application,
Yeah, she did.
but how much were you all involved in that?
She did almost all of it, I think. because
And
there
this was
some-
1997, right?
there
We
was so,
became designated a landmark.
But
So much
remember, we
political stuff.
paid her for it.
Oh, yeah.
Did the society pay her?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
But there was just, you know how it is with any application. You ask for
Oh, my
things that we
God.
may not have sources to. But she knew where to find all the
When
stuff
I
that they asked
look
for.
at that application and
Yeah.
how much you have to submit, I'm just completely
Oh,
amazed.
it was terrible.
Yeah,
It was.
yeah. And I'm sure she went back to the book
Mhm.
primarily.
Oh, yeah.
And was William Seal involved with her at that point?
I don't remember.
He was already gone on to other
He was
projects.
gone by that time.
I think so.
He was already hanging around the White House.
But Anne pushed that through.
Yeah.
Well, and you think about, you know, Susan's another one who, I mean, her efforts for this house have been enormous.
Absolutely.
I mean, if she didn't do anything more than the historic landmark application,
Yes.
she would have a place.
Right.
But you think
yeah.
about all the research she's done on the
I've
painting
often thought of
collection.
that too. Certain people did certain. I mean, we wouldn't have got anywhere if it hadn't been for this lady. We wouldn't have got that if it hadn't been for Kathleen and Ann and they're getting in touch with. Let's just
Yeah.
handle that.
You
I mean,
know,
there are certain people that just perfectly fit in that bead right then.
That's right.
you know, Ruth, it becomes a cliche, but it's only said so often because it's true. It takes a village. There's no one person could have done this.
Mhm.
There's
I've often
certain.
thought of, if I could name all the people that have been in ours, within ours, there's no way I could even give you
Oh, it would go on and on and on.
5% of the names. I can see the faces and I know what they did, but I can't remember
I
a
know
name.
we haven't mentioned Beverly Seeley.
Beverly,
Barely
yes,
Sealing,
We
bless
haven't
her
mentioned her.
soul.
And yes,
but she
I mean,
didn't
what
have
a
a
big
lot,
surprise.
Her joke, my gosh, that was a big
and she
surprise.
didn't have a lot to say or do when she was here, except make us all laugh
Yeah.
and complain about her. She always smells like dogs. But look at what she did for us afterwards.
Look at what we're able to do because of her generosity. Yeah. And you know, it's funny because that's obviously so huge. I mean, that's so much bigger than any of us would have ever dared
I
to
know.
think about.
I know.
But then you think about Marjorie Moore's family. And when Marjorie passed away, they could have said, you know, all right, Marjorie's gone on. But they wanted to do something for the house because they knew it was important to her.
Right.
And they kind of set that, and certainly Barbara Glover
Barbara.
knew what, and her family knew
Yeah.
what Marjorie's family had done. So they decided to do something like that. And Renee's family wants to do something. I mean, this is the kind of confidence and investment, literal and figuratively, investment that people build because they see other people invested in it.
Right.
I mean, that's the intangible thing that is so hard to describe to other people about why we all love this house. You know, Doris, you said it. You take people through, and more times than not, people say, "Oh, you really love this house. It's really clear you love
And I do.
this."
You know,
Yeah.
I really missed it when I moved. I really did. Well, I figured.
That's why we didn't let you go completely.
Well, I figured if I asked if I could come back, you guys might let me.
You thought we might? Yeah, that's probably a safe bet. Safe bet.
So.
Well, it's been great fun, and we could do this again for another couple hours, and we'd still have more stories.
Yeah.
So,
Ask one kind of closing question.
Yeah,
if I may. So if this has been 40, 50 years since beginning to where we are today, do you have any thoughts, or what are your thoughts about the next 10 to 20 years here at the house? Where do you hope the house goes, or there are specific things that you would like to see done, or just what do you hope next generation of you?
My hope is they, and I haven't looked at them today, so I shouldn't say anything, but I think the portico needs some paint.
And
The
some,
front
and-
portico.
Yeah, and my thing is, when people are coming here and you see that, it turns them off.
it's the first
And
experience.
First impressions.
And I mean, and I know there's a lot to keeping up a house like this. Believe me, I know how much work
Yeah,
it is.
more than most people, you know.
But I feel that if you're going to do it, you need to keep it up and take care of it. And I know you guys don't have anything to do with that. And so
Yeah,
I'm
but it's
preaching to
looking-
the choir, probably.
Already, yeah. But big picture, I mean, I think you're right. I think this house has to continue to present a really good first impression. But then, I mean, are there other things? You know, I know, like for instance, Park and Planning wants to buy up as many of the properties around and expand. I mean,
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But I would like more attention to the grounds.
I agree with that.
There must have been a spring house here. It had to be. Where was it? Maybe archaeology, you know.
Yeah.
Needs to be done to the grounds more.
I know there was a lot of archaeology done in the early days, but there hasn't been much done in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Well, this house, I can't say it's perfect, but it is for me. I just like the way it is and how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And
It's a special place.
Yeah,
No
it is.
question.
It's
No question.
and believe me, I talk about this house anytime I can to anybody over there who will listen. I don't know, I just like this house.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It just makes me feel good.
Well,
Yeah.
and I worry. I really do worry. I mean, you look around the table at our meetings, and you know, Michelle's the young one, and she is young. But after that, you know, we're all in the senior citizen category, and I don't know where we find the young people.
Yeah, I said that here when there were just so few of us. How are we ever going to make this work? It's going to have a lot more people. When I would slip in here, another 2 or 3 over here.
Yeah.
Pretty soon you had a small group, and it kept changing all the time. But other than those few of us that stayed here, but it kept changing. But everybody seemed to plug some little hole.
Yeah.
They did something or the other that was unique,
That's true.
and so you never know who was the boy that stuck the finger in the eye. You know, that really made things work.
Well, I think Sam and of course Maria's not here anymore, but the young people that are working over in the office
Unusual.
and the projects that they do for kids
Yes,
are going to make
that's wonderful.
kids
Yes.
enjoy
They're great.
doing this, and I think that's really important.
Because history is something new to the young kids.
Yes, it is.
They don't hear it that much.
Not in school.
And so when they can come and see and learn how things happen,
Yeah.
that's good.